To give you a sense of the agenda for today, we have an hour and a half event. We'll be discussing the results of our recent Comfort Kitchen and Kush Groove vote, answering any questions and addressing any feedback y'all have. And then we will unveil our new co-investment strategy and subfund dedicated to co-investment, sharing our vision for the future of our community-driven investing. And so, yeah, that's what we have planned for this this afternoon. Looking forward to hearing from y'all. So I'll pass it to you, Andre, to share some gratitude to our members.
Again, thanks for being here. I know that this is a huge, part of your Saturday, so thank you for taking the time for joining us. And it's all about love. I can't not mention that. So there are a couple of things that we just want to say thanks to our members for the Comfort Kitchen vote, which was completed in record time. We had votes completed in 11 days. That's huge. You can applaud yourself for that. And more so, almost 10% of the votes were completed within the first hour of voting. Again, that's major. We had 40% of the votes in the first 4 days between Tuesday and Friday. So again, that is huge. We want to say thanks to our members for participating in the process. And then our Kush Groove, we had record number of no votes, a total of 6 no votes. This is huge because it lets us know that members are not blindly just following the recommendations, but are checking in with their values and making sure that they are well informed, reviewing the memos and balancing the two, balancing the information that they receive in the memo as well as balancing just your own values. So we want to thank you very much. We continue to learn together from, the lines of credit to equity investments, and just investments overall. And for that, we are immensely grateful, and we thank you for your time. Genoa?
Perfect, Andre. Thank you. So now I'm going to go over some positive feedback from our members. Let's go to the next slide, please. Perfect. Thank you. So here in this slide, we have Kush Groove positive feedback from our members. If you look to the right, we have a couple key points that we want to just highlight, so I can read a few. So there's trust in the founders, so the 2 owners, Marcus and Mike. And then another one is equity in cannabis. So that's extremely important to our members. And I can read a few comments. So the top on the right, it says, I like the business. It is expanding and growing. I don't know much about the cannabis expansion and its legal implications. I'm overall for supporting BIPOC cannabis businesses. And another one, I could read at the bottom, I appreciate their vertically integrated business model and how the clothing line supports/enhances their other aligned ventures. So these are some really good comments. We can go to the next slide. I believe there's some more for Kush Groove. Perfect. And I'll read the last 2 comments. Kush Groove has a track record of doing amazing business, and I have enjoyed watching them grow. Okay, so that's a good comment. And then the last one, I think they have a promising business, and I believe they deserve a shot. Though I do think they could invest more on social media influencers, and I hope they get in front of Snoop and Wiz Khalifa. Okay, we can go to the next one. And yeah, this one is for Comfort Kitchen, some positive feedback from our members. So again, on the right side, I'll read some new ones. So social and economic benefit. And then I like to always highlight trust in the founders. And let me read a few comments. So everything I know and have experienced with Comfort Kitchen assures that this business is aligned with Ujima's values. This is a community-based business that should be supported. 100%. And then the last one is $17 an hour wage before tips, local hiring, and support of workers, Black and Asian owners, good business plan, need for investment. Have eaten there a number of times. The food is great. So if you haven't tried it out, definitely stop by. Now I can pass it over to Sierra, where she'll be going over the middling.
Yes, thank you all. first, I haven't gotten the opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Sierra Peters. I'm the Director of Communications, Culture, and Enfranchisement here at Ujima. And we're excited to be in conversation with you all. I'm particularly excited to discuss the middling feedback. This is a feedback that wasn't great, but it wasn't that bad. And so we thought that it was important to highlight that, that people don't exist on extremes, right? That sometimes we're conflicted and that's okay. So for Kush Group, some of the middling feedback included, some of the projections seem exaggerated, but it's a worthwhile investment in a business that's likely to pay back the loan. Someone else commented that the cannabis industry seemed risky. Another person mentioned that they aren't sure that people are actually going to want to purchase this kind of clothing. Another person commented, it'll be interesting to see how this conversation dovetails from this investment surrounding the intersectionality of a clothing brand. To have a clothing brand that's housed within a larger business. I'm also just going to move on here to some of the Comfort Kitchen middling feedback. Given the alternatives available to Comfort Kitchen, my concerns with the information presented, I choose not to vote no, but will instead abstain. I don't know enough at this time, but I'm trusting other voting members. This shows up a lot. Or sometimes in our votes where people don't feel informed enough to take a firm stance either way, and so they'll choose to abstain. And again, someone says, I'm not informed enough to make a firm decision on this one issue of investment, but my instincts are to vote yes. However, I do trust the body to make sound choices, and so will ultimately side with those who are more informed. And I will pass it on to Nia to tackle the critical feedback.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Sierra. My name is Nia Evans. I use she, her pronouns. I'm Boston Ujima Project's Executive Director. I do want to just back us up just a little bit to provide some additional context for today's conversation. As you see, we've taken the feedback and we've categorized it a couple of different ways. So one, we've categorized it in what we could deem positive feedback, middling feedback, and then critical feedback. What we've also set out to do, which you'll see on the side of most of the slides, is then within each category of positive, middling, and negative feedback, we tried to then categorize them according to themes. So we've just pointed out a couple. We haven't read them all, but we encourage you to read all of the themes within the different category, just to get a sense of what members' concerns were. Additionally, I'd like to say that these are not this is not all of the feedback that we received. This is a sampling of the feedback that we received. There's a link at the bottom of, I believe, slide number 3, the first or the second positive feedback slide for Kush Groove, that will take you to a spreadsheet that shows all of the feedback that we received. Sierra, please help me out here. I think for Kush Groove, for Kush Groove, we received definitely over 100 pieces of feedback. I'm not sure about the exact number. And I think similarly for Comfort Kitchen, we received over 100 pieces of feedback as well. I do want to try to find the exact number so that you understand that what you're seeing when you see a slide with 6 or 12 pieces of positive feedback, there's more positive feedback that we received about both businesses as well as the fund. There's more middling feedback and there's more negative feedback. We also want to make sure you see the frequency of some of the feedback within themes, so that it doesn't look like, for example, just one person supports local businesses, but we want you to get a sense of, and not just a sense, but the actual reality amongst our members, for example, of how many have expressed different types of feedback. So just wanted to add that context. So some feedback, some critical feedback we received on Kush Groove, we categorized into 5 large, broader categories: legal concerns, financial concerns, loan concerns, operational concerns, and transparency concerns. I'll read the last piece because this definitely, I think, was something that was newer for us. And we think also translated into some of the concerns that members had. So the last piece of feedback reads, I am not a fan of cannabis as a lifestyle, and although this brand is amazing with a great story, it just doesn't call to me. I, however, believe in their business model and the leadership team and have no doubt they will be successful. My main reason for saying no is not because I don't believe in them. It is because no matter what it is, unless it is medical cannabis, I have watched cannabis destroy too many lives in my own immediate family. I wish them success and again believe they will achieve it. I'll read the quote above, which reads, concern about the risk of investing in a cannabis adjacent business is raised by Julia. Would be willing to vote yes if that risk were sufficiently mitigated via updated federal regulation. And I think these last two quotes do well to illustrate, I think, the tensions that our members had to grapple with in deciding what they were going to vote on here. So to be clear, we are not investing in cannabis. So I want to make sure that is clear. Kush Groove has a clothing brand and they are expanding into the cannabis field. The Ujima Fund has invested in Kush Groove's clothing brand. However, because Kush Groove is expanding into cannabis, this wasn't information that Ujima or members could ignore. Ujima did an extensive amount of legal due diligence that's detailed in the credit memo that went out with this vote to make sure we had as much information as we could that would allow us to feel comfortable presenting the opportunity to members and making the investment. Andre said earlier, this had a record number of no votes. And I think that fact, I think, again, kind of also just illustrates what members had to grapple with in making a decision. And so we really do appreciate that members really kind of examine their values on this one. I would say try to balance their personal values against what they felt would be beneficial or not beneficial for their fellow members and for community members, took in the information that we gave them about the business itself, as well as the information about what we had uncovered with the legal due diligence. Thank you. For Comfort Kitchen, there's a little less critical feedback. And I would say this is in the Comfort Kitchen category because this came up on the Comfort Kitchen ballot, but I think this really is more aimed at the Ujima Fund. So there are a couple of questions. Well, there's a question here about the interest rate, which we'll answer when we get to the question slide. There's also a question about the Ujima Fund portfolio and the pipeline, which we'll also answer when we get to the question slide. And I'll just read this last piece, which again seems more general and not very specifically about Comfort Kitchen, but a member said, I'm concerned about the resources that are available for small businesses, banking, accounting, insurance, legal services, also business consulting to ensure the success of these businesses. And do we have this on the question slides here, or should I just go ahead and respond to this last piece now?
This is not on the question
This is
slide.
another. So I'll go ahead. I'll respond to this last piece now, because again, I think this is less about Comfort Kitchen and more about the Ujima Fund management team, Ujima as a whole, and I would even say our small business ecosystem as a whole. So my response to that is Boston proper is a pretty resource-rich area when it comes to resources that are available for small businesses. There is a study that was conducted in, I want to say 2016, that we have definitely referenced in our work. It was conducted by the city of Boston. It's a good study. I will kind of go back in somehow. I guess we can go back in and link this in later when we send this out. That actually details all of the resources that are available for small businesses in the city. Now, that said, it doesn't mean that everything is perfect and everything is great. What that report does also detail are differences in the quality of resources, what those resources cover for different small businesses, and then what's actually available to businesses owned by people of color, particularly in neighborhoods. of color. So I would say that's an excellent resource. The city is resource rich. However, there are some gaps. What that report has found is resources tend to be standardized. So that kind of standardized cookie cutter approach doesn't address the unique needs, for example, and the unique questions that individual businesses will have. And that's where Ujima, amongst other peers, certainly Ujima is not the only one, but that is where Ujima kind of steps in to help fill in some gaps. So as part of the membership in the Ujima Good Business Alliance, we provide our own customized technical assistance, which includes customized marketing plans, a customized procurement campaign, as well as introducing the businesses in our alliance to our technical assistance network that we work to create with vetted technical assistance partners that we think provide high quality technical assistance to take out some of the footwork for businesses. So we recognize that capital is not the only supportive resource that small businesses need. There are a plethora of additional resources that small businesses need. Ujima works to provide that for our portfolio companies. And again, Boston is a resource-rich area. So we also have several peers that provide that as well. And we work to ensure good relationship and to provide high value-added partnerships with those partners. The last portion of this debrief includes questions about both Kush Groove and Comfort Kitchen. And I think after this, we go into general commentary on the fund in general. So some of these questions we cannot answer live right now. We do want to make sure we provide accurate responses. So some of these questions we will take back to the relevant parties. So for example, members of our investment committee, the Kush Groove owners, just to make sure we are getting accurate answers to these. But some of these we will do our best to answer live. So just starting with curious about federal marijuana laws impacting Ujima's nonprofit status. So I referred to some extensive legal due diligence that we did earlier. We do provide this in the credit memo, and perhaps what this question is asking is to lay out very specifically what the federal marijuana laws are. And if that is what this is asking, we will make sure we go back and find some actual text to link in. But what I can say, what we learned from our due diligence, our excessive due diligence is we don't know. We felt, and our attorneys felt very comfortable saying, you know, let's go ahead and make a loan or make an investment in the clothing brand, again, not in their cannabis business. Because when we looked at their revenues, we saw that less than a third of their revenues came from cannabis. And so our thinking was that if it came down to a conversation with the IRS, and the IRS is the entity that determines an organization's nonprofit status, and if I just back up a little bit, what we understand of the process is it wouldn't be a process in which the nonprofit status would be immediately yanked without conversation. There would be some conversation. So there would be kind of some type of notice that talks about concern. And at that point, we would then be in conversation with the IRS, and we would be making our case, so to speak. And so we found that if we did find ourselves in that situation, we would be able to make the case that less than 1/3 of their revenues were coming from cannabis. So it's not a major portion of their business. And so, you know, we could make the case that the primary business is clothing. What we have also put in the terms of the loan agreement is that repayment, the monies that will come back to us cannot come from the cannabis side of their business. The monies will have to come from the clothing side of their business. So we also felt like that some added protection that, again, if we found ourselves in a conversation with the IRS, we would be able to successfully make the case that it cannot be said we are investing directly in cannabis. And when I go back to when I say we don't know, And this is just based on, this is somewhat unprecedented. So our attorneys cannot find incidents or precedents where the IRS had to make some type of decision in one direction or another. So it really would, so we don't have precedent to go on. So it really would just be, let's make a decision we're most comfortable with, and we will find out what happens. The next question is, why not collateralize the loan via a UCC filing on equipment or inventory like the SBA? So Kush doesn't seek additional debt leverage, leaving Ujima with zero position in recourse. We asked ourselves the collateral question, and where we landed was, again, we are investing in the clothing brand. And so when we think about what's the relevant inventory there, it's clothing. Do we want to be in the position of trying to offload t-shirts? If the loan doesn't work out for one reason or another, no. We don't think that the effort would be worth what we would actually end up netting. So we did decide in this instance to forego collateral. For the content creation and advertising question, I would want to take that to the Kush Groove owners again directly, just to get the most accurate response. In terms of where are the 2022 financials, they're in a prime location without COVID as a barrier, with us a snapshot of their current health. I wanted to double check, and I did double check when we sent out the credit memo. We did not send out the 2022 financials. And that is a function of a conversation that started earlier with Kush Groove. So we started our conversation with Kush Groove late. Okay, actually, no. So we started our conversation with Kush Groove. I was about to get my years mixed up. I want to say mid 2022. We had started the process for the credit memo pretty early. We actually thought the vote was going to happen earlier. So at the time that we were putting the memo together, the 2021 financials, which are the latest financials that we have in there, were the most kind of relevant and up to date. But then because we had to do this extra legal due diligence when our attorneys had said, hey, wait a minute, just on the cannabis piece, that actually delayed the vote a little further out. And we did not update that information. But what we do is we do have quarterly check-ins with all of our businesses and portfolio companies, and we do ensure that we get updated financials at each check-in, and we also have an annual investee report out where we also ask for updated financials then. So we are still finalizing the loan papers for Kush Groove. Once that is done and they have received the money, at our next check-in, we'll be asking for updated financials. And then finally, for how much of their own money have they raised? Again, we will take that to the Kush Groove owners to get the most accurate up-to-date amount today. And there was one question related to Comfort Kitchen. And again, this was about interest rates, and we felt this was less about Comfort Kitchen and more about the Ujima Fund. So we'll answer this during the questions about the Ujima Fund portion of the presentation.
Perfect. Thank you, Nia. Thank you. So now we're going to be going over some feedback for the Ujima Fund Management Team, the Investment Committee, and how our process looks. So some positive feedback we have: I trust the Ujima Fund Management Team. I have confidence in the Investment Committee recommendations, and I want to highlight the last two. I think those are extremely important. So I trust the vetting that Ujima staff and business owners do to bring good community investments to the table. And the second to last one, or the last one, the Boston Ujima Project Investment Committee has expertise in various areas of financial investment. Given their confidence per their expertise, I'm following their lead to vote in yes for Comfort Kitchen. So some positive feedback, and I'll pass it back over to Nia.
Great, thank you. And I've previewed this before already. Oh, and actually, I'm seeing that previous question about the interest rate. is in here. But so we didn't get any middling feedback directly related to the fund, or any negative feedback, or I won't say negative, but any critical feedback directly related to the fund. Just want to say, I think for us, that represents trust and grace that we receive from Ujima members as well as community members. That again, we are grateful for. We don't take it for granted. We have worked hard over the years and continue to build that trust with members, so that we can continue to learn. We can make mistakes. We can refine our processes. We can actually be accountable to who we want to be accountable to. And again, not take that trust for granted. So we appreciate that there's trust, and as was noted earlier, people are bringing their values into the process. People are bringing a close eye, an examining eye, a critical eye, and so we think that that's very important for democracy. So a question that was more related to the Ujima Fund is, well, there were a couple of questions here. How much in total does Ujima have to lend to the portfolio? What does the pipeline look like? And this was kind of on the Comfort Kitchen slide, because I think the person who asked this, for them, they did kind of want to know that in terms of which direction to go with Comfort Kitchen, and that does it does make sense to kind of want to examine that or think about a current investment against the backdrop of what has happened already. So the Ujima Fund is a $5 million fund. $4.5 million of that is investment capital. $500,000 is loan loss reserve. At the time that we had the Comfort Kitchen vote up for investment, we had $725,000 out or committed. So if I were to do some quick math, I think that would have left us with 3.8 million available at the time of that vote. At the time of the Comfort Kitchen vote, what was up in the pipeline were 2 new votes that we're going to preview a little later that are upcoming. Another restaurant, The Pearl, another food business, Cupcake Therapy. We had also, I think by that point, accepted Kadogo Productions and Live Like a Local tours. And just in case, just want to speak to some additional kind of diversity in the pipeline at that point. So at that point, a tour company and a media company. We had also accepted Eastie Farm, which is an urban farm, into the alliance at the time of the vote. We have most recently, again, just want to continue to answer this pipeline question because it is very exciting. Right now we have formally 16 businesses in the alliance. The Bay State banner just officially joined the alliance yesterday. They completed their membership form yesterday, and we have invited a 17th business or organization, I should say, DSNI, Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative. So we're excited that the alliance is growing with some really, I would say top-notch businesses and organizations. We are seeing also diversity and increasing in our, I would say, immediate pipeline. And then in terms of the less immediate pipeline, that's actually our businesses we love list. So if you go to our website and if you go to Ujima Good Business Alliance, actually, no, if you go to finance, if you go to our website and then if you go to finance, we have just dropped a link in the chat here. And then if you look at investment pipeline, you'll see the list of businesses we love. And that gives you a sense of what our kind of broader pipeline is. And then if you want to look at what our more narrow or more immediate pipeline is, you will look at the list of the Ujima Good Business Alliance members. If we could go back to the Comfort Kitchen question, because I don't think we have it here, right? There isn't another slide after this? Or is there?
No, it's the next one too.
It's the next one. Okay, great. Thank you, Sierra. Okay, and then we had a couple of people ask about interest rates, which again, we really appreciate close eyes, examination, scrutiny. So just a reminder, the loan terms for Comfort Kitchen were 200,000. Well, it was actually interesting. It was a bit of a new one for us and for Ujima members. The total amount was $200,000, split between a $100,000 term loan and a $100,000 line of credit. On the $100,000 term loan, we proposed an interest rate of 4%, and on the $100,000 line of credit, we proposed an interest rate of 5%. And we had, I think, about two or three people who said, I think this seems high. Is there any way to lower them? And then this person asked, does the interest go back to Ujima? If so, I see this as a non-issue, as it'll go back into the community. So in terms of, we appreciated the feedback in terms of the interest rate seeming high. It would be great to actually kind of check in with those individuals in particular to get a sense of what the benchmarks or the comparisons were for them. So we find that when we look at our interest rates, and I think right now, I think the highest interest rate that we have out with the loans or the investments that we have out is 5%. And the lowest is 4%. We find that when we compare it to what the rest of the field is doing, it's either pretty in line or actually below market. And we are now in an environment where definitely rates are getting higher. And so we can definitely say that as the rates kind of go up more and more, our comparison or our rates then actually become more and more below market. So we're actually pretty comfortable with that 4%, 5% range. We actually think it's very competitive. We understand that for some businesses, because there was one business owner who had asked this question, if they're existing in kind of the more immediate environment of, for example, grants being a little more widely available due to the pandemic, and then some kind of recent products that have been created that were either 0% or even lower than 4%. And I would say, again, really in response to the pandemic, I think we can see why there would be that comparison. But I would also say, I don't think, and we don't think that is normal. So we do think that those are special circumstances. That said, the question was, is there any way to lower them? We did ask our team that. And when we went back to our team with that, when we went back to Comfort Kitchen's technical assistance providers, for example, the feedback that we received was that it felt fair to Comfort Kitchen. It felt manageable. And again, I would say our team affirmed that the rates are competitive, in some instances, actually very, very competitive and not too high or burdensome. And the question is, does the interest go back to Ujima? So I would say very specifically, the interest is paid back to the Ujima Fund, not necessarily the organization as a whole, but to the Ujima Fund. So we appreciate that question. Thank you so much.
And we've reached the end of our feedback segment. So thank you all so much, Genoa, Andre, Nia, for presenting in this section. I'm gonna, let everybody get their claps in, their heart emojis. And I'm also gonna ask you to throw up your heart emojis if you know that we have 2 investments coming up. Did you know? Did you know? Okay, some people did know. Okay, I see some stuff in the chat. Okay, sick. Well, we do have 2 investments coming up. So we have the Cupcake Therapy and the Pearl. And I'll just go into these businesses a little bit. So Cupcake Therapy is a tree nut and peanut free cupcakery that bakes made-to-order cupcakes with premium ingredients, made organic when possible, and can be made dairy-free or vegan. So the Ujima Fund Management Team has proposed an investment of $210,000 for a duration of 5 years at 4% interest in cupcake therapy. Additionally, we have the Pearl. The Pearl is a neighborhood bar and seafood eatery that offers an upscale casual dining experience. And the Ujima Fund Management Team has proposed a $200,000 investment over 5 years at 4% interest. Now, what makes this vote so special? This is our first time recently sliding in 2 investment votes at once. We have had times where we've done 2 votes at once, but this is our first time doing 2 investment votes at once. And we chose to do this because, as always, it's really necessary that we support our businesses and that we're working as quickly as we can to give them an answer about their investment. So, if they do get investment in, great, they can open up that second restaurant, they can open up that first restaurant, they can do what they need to with the funds. And if not, we can find other supportive programs that we have in our ecosystem to connect them with. Now, just an FYI, next Monday, if you haven't already, I'm going to drop the link to all this information. Next Monday, we are having a credit memo Q&A. Please join us. This is your time to walk through the credit memo, to ask any questions. You don't have to read anything. They're going to talk you through it. The business owners will be there. The investment committee will be there. Our team will be there. And it's usually a rip-roaring time. We will also have our debt service coverage ratio 101. If you know what that means, great. Maybe you don't have to go, but if you don't know what that means, you should definitely go because you want to learn. So again, this is happening on Monday, May 1st, 2023, starting at 6 p.m. And yeah, we hope that you can join us. So I'm just gonna drop this link here into the chat for you to get all the information, the credit memos. You can complete your survey if you have not already. We're asking members to give us their feedback on the credit memos and ask any questions. And please be sure to attend this credit memo presentation and Q&A. Now, the vote will actually open on May 9th. At that same time, you'll see that the investment memo will be out, and the investment memo will include any questions or feedback that you provide for us. So do send in your surveys if you have the opportunity. So I think I'm passing it back to you, Nia, right? I think I'm passing it back to you.
You are. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sierra, for previewing our next upcoming votes. This is very exciting. So this actually will be the last portion of today's our first Ujima Fund town hall. We wanted to present our co-investment strategy and just get some feedback from you, as well as present our first proposed investment partner. So first, some history. This is not the first time we are proposing co-investment. So pretty early in Ujima's history, we tried to kind of to see far out ahead and try to see just kind of different situations and circumstances we would find ourselves in, and try to preempt them. So one of the things we wanted to be able to do for ourselves is we wanted to be able to avail ourselves of investment opportunities that arose outside of our community driven process. And I would say really the primary thing that kind of allows us, and back then allowed us to think about this possibility is because, as you can imagine, this world isn't neat. So things don't progress on a nice, well-planned out schedule that allows us to say people are going to be asking or seeking investment or going to need assistance, for example, on certain dates or certain times of the year. Generally, when opportunity arises, when needs arise, And so for some of our peers who have different processes, they are a little more well-positioned to learn about those opportunities and then to actually take advantage of those opportunities. So that's kind of the context in which we would say, hey, there may be some things that are out there that we would want to participate in that our process would not allow us to do. Not because our process is not a good process, but just because it's just a different type of process. And it's takes a little more time. It's a little slower. The other thing I would say is our process is we are asking community members to name businesses for us. And what we really love about this process and why we think it's really important for democracy is we like to say it's kind of like taking our membership body. We have around 400 something odd voting members. It's kind of like having a 400 member investment committee, or it's kind of like having 400 fund managers running around on behalf of Ujima, seeking out opportunities. And anyone who has been Glenn, who we're going to be talking with from MCCI, for example, knows this. So anyone who's been kind of like a singular kind of fund manager, kind of running around sourcing those deals, definitely knows how much work it is. And so the idea of kind of 400 people doing that is very compelling. At the same time, just like with the singular fund manager, opportunities that you learn about are governed by your networks. They're governed by your profession, et cetera, et cetera. So there are some businesses we know just don't face regular people in the same way. So for example, there would be real estate opportunities that many community members just wouldn't really know about until you kind of start to see buildings emerging from the ground. Then you know something's happening, but you're not necessarily part of those conversations, for example, or certain businesses called B2B, business to business businesses, where their primary clients or their primary customers are other businesses. So again, as a regular kind of consumer, you just may not have a lot of interaction with them. And so so you just wouldn't necessarily know about opportunities to invest in them. So in May 2019, May 23rd to be exact, and Sierra was referencing this early, so we call this our epic ballot because we opened 4 questions or 4 ballots at once, and that was definitely a huge mistake that we learned from very early in terms of asking people too much stuff. But our 4th question in that epic ballot asked members to consider investment partners. And we asked if members approved of developing partnerships with peers to take advantage of additional investment opportunities. And hopefully I did a good job of providing context that explains why we would want to have this process to learn about additional investment opportunities. At the time, the quorum for that ballot was 121 voters. And so we opened this in May 2019. As of September 2019, 102 voters had participated in that ballot. So we were very close to quorum, but we weren't there. We were 19 voters shy. The vote had been open 4 months. We said, sure, we could push it. We could kind of extend this another 2-3 weeks, another month. But it felt like by this point, it's really pushing it in terms of whether or not this is really kind of top of mind for members, and whether or not for kind of the remaining voters that we were trying to reach, it actually was, I'm just going to say, for lack of a better word, a fair conversation. So we said, you know what, let's call it. Let's end it. Let's close it. As an aside, we had reached quorum for the first 3 questions. So that had also taken some time. But again, we just kind of felt like at this point it's dragging out. Let's make the decision to end it. And let's say we have not reached quorum on this ballot, which means we have failed on this ballot. It was also, I would just, as an aside, say it was also important for us to deem something a failure, as opposed to kind of, I would say, stretch just to be able to call it a success. So we learn from success just as much as we learn from failure. And so for us, that was also the reason why we said, let's just say we haven't reached quorum, because it felt important to say, let's say we failed. And then the next step is, what do we learn from this? How do we improve? So definitely one of the learnings, let's not try to ask 4 questions at once. Now, that said, as I said, we did get 102 voters. And so I do want to preview or show what it looks like people were leaning towards in terms of this question, because we are returning to this question again today. So of those 102 voters, we didn't have anyone say no to the proposal. So we didn't have anyone say, what? No way. Community process and that's it, nothing else. We did have 10 people abstain, and I'm happy to, if that's a question, to kind of look up some of the responses to the abstentions. And then everyone else said yes. So as I said, we are now returning to this question again today. We are at a different stage, I would say, in terms of our voting process. We've made some good refinements. We've learned a lot. We have some good momentum going. So for this year, again, we talked about how we're doing this double vote. That will be the 3rd and 4th investment votes that we are unveiling this year in 1 year, and we're in the month of April, in 4 months. So that's averaging about a vote a month. So that's pretty impressive. And it's also the 6th and the 7th investment opportunity we are presenting to Ujima members, and that's something we're very proud of. Again, after having a slow start, just getting more and more money out the door. Again, it seems like a good time to return to this question of, are there additional investment opportunities that we should be sure to take advantage of? So here is our proposal. So again, we are proposing developing partnerships with peers to take advantage of additional investment opportunities. Again, the Ujima Fund is a $5 million fund with $4.5 million of that is investment capital. To date, just under $1 million, 925,000 has been deployed and or committed to deploy. And so in the original proposal, and we will repeat this today, in the original proposal in 2019, we proposed committing to no more than 1/3 of the fund going to investments through this channel. So we are repeating that request, and what that actually means in terms of dollar amounts is we are proposing that we will set aside $1 million to up to between $1 million and $1.5 million into a subfund dedicated to co-investment. And again, that represents 1/3 of the investment capital available. Businesses, investment opportunities that we learn about through this avenue or through this channel will have to undergo the same community standard screening and due diligence process as the other businesses we love that have been named by community members. So the primary difference here in this proposal in terms of how businesses get into the pipeline is sourcing. So essentially, we are saying we'd like to be able to source additional investment opportunities from our investment partners. Or potential investment partners, and we're going to highlight the first that we're proposing today, we would put to the membership for consideration. So I'll pause for just a couple of questions on a proposal, and then we'd like to do a quick poll. Okay. I think that's enough time for people to figure out how to unmute themselves and ask a question if they have a question. So let's go to the poll. Let's just do a couple of minutes. We're gonna activate the poll. And I think, is this the first time we've tried to activate a poll?
It is not, but I'm gonna ask James, can you just do me a quick favor and activate the first poll?
Okay, great. I was gonna say, you'll have to give us a minute to figure out the technical stuff because we don't do Zoom polls often.
And this is the investment partnerships poll.
And please let us know if you have any issues.
Okay.
And I guess we're seeing some participation live. And I guess I can't take it, Sierra. Is that what's happening?
I don't know. It's telling me that I cannot.
Okay, fair enough. I guess we can't take it.
Do you see it now?
No, I see the poll. It's fine. The poll's been up the whole time. But I don't have access to, if I wanted to take it, I guess I can't take it. See, I think we can go back to the slideshow, the visual. But yeah, the poll just showed up on top of the slideshow. Okay. Can you bring the visual back up, Sierra? I think everyone that is not staff has taken the poll. And it is a unanimous approve is what I'm seeing. And can we bring the presentation back up?
Yeah, I just sent you a chat. Can you just give me permission again?
You seem to already be the co-host from what I can see. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong person. Okay, gotcha. All right, gotcha.
Okay.
All right, excellent. Okay, great. Also, just a quick note about what we just did. So I mentioned we opened up this vote in 2019. We almost reached quorum. We didn't quite get there. We said, let's just call it a failure. Here, we just did a Zoom poll. That's also very intentional. So part of the context that I presented in terms of why we are returning to this question is we've made some improvements. We're cooking. We've got some good momentum going in terms of investment votes. We're gonna launch 2 investment votes May 9th. We are pretty sure we're gonna launch an investment vote right after that. And if you are a Ujima voter, you know that we bug you to do these votes. We call you, we text you, we email you. It's very akin to kind of more traditional get out the vote efforts. And one of our lessons, and I've said this a few times already in that 2019 ballot, was knowing when it made sense to put a question for a formal vote and when it did not. What questions to ask members, and what questions to just really make sure we're just transparent about and inform, rather than kind of presume that members want to vote on something, and decision fatigue. And so understanding that we have investments that we need to make, we have a mandate to invest in small businesses in our communities. In terms of formal voting as a mechanism, we are reserving that and prioritizing investment votes in terms as far as that mechanism goes. There are many mechanisms that we have at our disposal when it comes to participatory processes. And in terms of getting feedback and doing temperature checks. And so we thought it would be a good idea, because we're doing this Zoom town hall, to use the Zoom poll. Just to also explain why we are not putting this to a formal vote, because we want you to reserve your energy for the investment votes, 3 that are definitely upcoming. And then again, if we do our jobs correctly, there will be even more investment votes to come in the future. So on the general proposal, when we look at where people were leaning in 2019, people were leaning definitely the bulk of the responses were yes, it's okay to have investment partnerships. And then today we got overwhelmingly approved. So with that said, we'd like to introduce you to the first investment partner that we are proposing, Mill Cities Community Investments. So I'm going to give the floor to Glenn Lloyd, who is on the call, who is the CEO of Mill Cities Community Investments. I've told Glenn he has up to 10 minutes to say whatever it is he wants to say about Mill Cities Community Investments. There are some things very specifically I've asked him to touch on, but just by way of you getting to know both Glenn and the organization better, I will turn it over to him to give us an overview.
Thanks, Nia. Hello, all. So I'm honored to be asked in to communicate out what we're up to, and hopefully potentially do some co-investment deals with Ujima. I was early in some of Ujima meetings when the organization was just starting up. So I'm familiar, generally speaking, as a long time fan of Nia and the rest of the folks who've been involved. So maybe I start with a little bit of history of how Mill Cities, or I got involved with Mill Cities Community Investments, and or maybe I'll start with myself. I mean, I'm a long-time Boston resident, second generation. My folks my mother born in Roxbury. My dad came when he was at the age of 6 from Florida to Roxbury, and current resident, and been very involved with different things, everything from starting City Fresh Foods, which is one of the companies that folks may be familiar with, to helping start the Urban Farming Institute, to the Black Economic Council of Massachusetts. So I've been very involved with equitable issues, local food issues, and power issues. How do we get more resources to our folks? So in terms of the organization itself, I stumbled into MCCI, which, by the way, I should be really clear. Mill Cities Community Investments is a community development finance institution, CDFI for short. And I didn't really know much about this space, but it's a very interesting platform to move capital to where it needs to go. And I came through my work at the Foundation for Business Equity, which was essentially initiated out of Eastern Bank about 5 or 6 years ago now. And so the programming of the Foundation for Business Equity, which includes the Business Equity Initiative, sorry for all these titles, which focus on larger, typically Black and Latinx businesses, and how do we help scale them with some high touch advisory. That work now is all under one roof within Mill Cities Community Investments as a CDFI. So we have a bunch of components. We, we're primarily on the CDFI side, we're putting capital on the street, and we're doing it in 2 buckets. We're doing it we actually do it mostly, well, a good chunk of it's small business, which is what we're talking about today. And then we also do residential. And so we do lead abatement, we do home improvement. And we're really excited about a new green product that's coming out to allow or make it accessible for moderate low income folks to be able to really decarbonize, go all the way off of carbon. So that's not for today's topic, even though it may come up, and that's exciting stuff. But really, I think we're mostly talking about the small business side. And what I'll say quickly about that is just a little bit around our structure, I guess, and then some of the products. And in terms of how we structure ourselves, we're a nonprofit. So as part of the CDFI status, and we have a board. So I have a board, mostly folks of color, and we also I'm the ED, and my team is very diverse, and we can get into some of those numbers. But we also have Aaron Lackman, who runs the commercial lending department, and Tony Russ, who runs the equity department. We actually can do debt products, and we could do equity products. And equity meaning like literally take an ownership percentage of a company, patient capital, important capital to have for certain growth needs. And both of those departments have investment committees. Okay, it's a loan committee on the debt side, and so that's where we're doing all the underwriting's happening, and also where decisions making is happening around making decisions on moving money into the loans. And then that would flow into the product mix a little bit, which we historically Mill Cities Community Investments, which is headquartered in Lawrence, but does a lot of lending in the Merrimack Valley, but actually is a statewide entity, so we can lend anywhere in the state, and even across the border too, if we had up to a certain percentage. But historically, it did a lot of small lending, like the micro lending, small businesses, and average loan being around 50, 60 grand. When I got more involved about 4 years ago, we kept that type of product to the micro lending, and then we added additional kind of product, which is we'll call small business loans, and those are a little bit larger amounts of money, on average $300,000 or $400,000, and these are typically larger companies, more sophisticated, and so on and so forth. So even though they're two different products mixes, the underwriting process and the decision making is parallel within each. And I mentioned Aaron Lackman who runs the commercial lending side, and he has a team now of 3 lenders. So these are the folks that go, lending officers going out, and the combination of lending officer and kind of community organizing, because we have to develop our own pipeline, and it's really, we go into communities where we want to be, part of the fabric, and that's how we approach. That's how the history of Bell City Community Investments really, we're about supporting community, and word gets out, and that's where we love to see those inquiries come from. And so we've done this historically, and I'll just make sure I hit all my points here. I'll just say a quick couple of things around our underwriting. And so we essentially we do this combination of character-based lending beside the fundamentals. We've done it historically, but it's mostly specified in our paperwork that it's more traditional underwriting. Like, we're look at credit scores. They're not, they will not be a barrier to make a loan, but it is part of the process. The finances and so on and so forth. But I will say a lot has to do with the relationship that the bond and so on and so forth that we're forming with the entrepreneurs, and how long they've been in the community, who knows them. So there's a and then when you bring in the larger loans through the business equity initiative, we really know these people in a different way, and a lot of that's through deep relationship. So a lot of what we do is a lot to do with character. We just recently contracted with the Runway Project out of Oakland, California, folks may know, and they're going to help us. Yes, they're going to help us codify what we've already been doing and really put it into words where I think we can, be an example for CDFIs across the country. Like, this is how we should be thinking about do our underwriting for our people, and so we're excited about that, and that's in the early stage of that actual formal framing. And then I just quickly say we're very because of my background, we're a very innovative nonprofit, and so constantly tweaking and seeing how we can be more effective at what we're trying to do. And as I already mentioned, we do debt in these 2 different categories: the small, this micro, the larger. We do equity, and we also have a product that doesn't get used as much, but we all should know on this call, which is contract financing. So we have a relationship with actually a national player that does the underwriting for this, but we can participate. And this is like the invoice financing. So a lot of your trades people or your manufacturers who get business, but then they need cash flow to make it happen, and they'll have a purchase order, and then we can actually fund towards that purchase order. So we're excited about having that. And more recently, some of the innovation is we've been doing bridge loans a little bit, which I don't like as much, but quick, bam, and for folks, for example, the Boston company, doing events in Boston, they got all these events, and the city doesn't pay until X amount of days. We bridge some money so they can actually do the events. We know the city's going to eventually pay, and then that came to us, and it was a very short-term loan. And then we've also even done some quick bonding stuff where some of the development companies, in this case was a construction company, needed a bond, and we've innovated a little bit with that. And we've also helped now our first Latina owner purchase their building, which was really exciting. And we extend the terms and make that work. So I'm constantly pushing my team, and I get a lot of flack from that. But just so you know, that's we're very innovative of how to try to solve the issue for the entrepreneur. And I'll end with this because I don't know what my timing is on this, but we in our situation, and this is why I was excited when Nia called to chat about this on behalf of Ujima, which was I have two parts to my job as the ED, right? And well, I got multiple parts, but in terms of the fundraising development side, I got two parts. I got to raise dollars to keep the lights on and the staff and so on and so forth. But I'm constantly raising dollars that we can redeploy into our communities. It's challenging, right? And some challenging times, with the banking industry and all that stuff. So the fact that there may be some capital that can come into some of the deals that we're seeing is exciting to me. So because it's all about getting it to where it needs to go. And then the other side of that is we have an incredible pipeline. I mean, like we're busting literally with on both the equity side and specifically on the debt side. So so that's why this is an exciting conversation for us. Hopefully I covered the key points, Nia, but I think that was
You did. Thank you so much, Glenn. That was excellent. Thank you so much. I'd like to ask you a few more questions, just to help members get to know you better. I think with you becoming the ED of Mill City's Community Investments, did that make MCCI the first Black-led CDFI in Massachusetts? Am I correct about that?
Unfortunately, yes, that is true. That is correct. Yes.
Do you want to say just a little more about that? Maybe one or two sentences more?
Yeah, I'd say, Nia, you and I are on a lot of Zoom calls, and there's not a lot of folks that look like us who are in some form of influence around getting capital to our people. And that's that's not how we're going to change things. So yeah, it's something that we can claim with the first CDFI, and there should be more of us. And I think I really want to be clear with this, like that I've learned, I could say this, I think among this group, is the closer you get to changing power, the harder it gets. And so it's can be a lonely task sometimes here, but we're committed.
Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate that. Second thing is, I know, and this might put you on the spot a little bit. So if it does, feel free to say nope. not going to answer that. But I do know you are, as you said earlier, a friend of Ujima's. You've been around since the beginning. You're also a Ujima voting member. You are very aware of our standards. And so I know that you have been in conversation about some standards and some things that you have been kind of exploring instituting where you are. One of those was compensation ratio. Is there anything you'd be willing to kind of talk about on today's call with regards to that? And if there are any kind of other standards that you're familiar with on the Ujima side, principles that
Can you refresh me? What is the standard currently? Because I may not have it. The
standard currently is 5-1.
Yeah. Well, first off, philosophically, politically, whoever you want to call it, morally, I actually think it, I think that I love it, right? I love the intent and what we're trying to do here. And I think, so I think not only to that question, but maybe other categories too, it may not all fit, right? So there may be some deals that just don't make sense. And so therefore that doesn't make sense for Ujima in this point. So, but I do think that,
just real quick, Lynn, I'm actually referring to, I think you were looking at instituting some practices at MCCI. So not necessarily the companies we may share, but I know.
Right.
Right, exactly.
Oh yeah, we're well within that range. Yeah. So that would be a nice issue for me to have. if I'm bumping up to 5-1 with on that scenario. So not an issue in terms of us MCCI.
Yeah. And what is your compensation ratio?
It's funny. I'm trying to do the math in my head right now. I'll by the end of the call, I may have that number for you because I.
Okay, excellent.
It's somewhere between 3.5 to 1 or something like that, I think.
Oh, very good. And this will be the last bit on standards. From what you kind of can recall, remember about the Ujima standards and Ujima principles, are there any that you can say, again, MCCI, the organization, not who we may invest in, are there any that you can say, you think you do pretty great work in that area, and or that is something you're working towards?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I think we can always be improving all of them, right? You know, to some degree. I think on the gender balance thing, I think we're doing pretty well. Clearly on the diversity issue, we're doing well. You know, I think, you know, we're trying to move towards more environmental products. So unfortunately, you caught me off guard. I think I should probably cross-check all the standards to make sure, but I think I don't really have, yeah.
Yeah, no worries. And then the one of the things I am thinking of, because I know you've been helpful with City Fresh with this and with Bay State Banner, is employee ownership.
Yes.
So do you just want to kind of talk about that a bit? Because I do know that you have definitely kind of worked with your own company, City Fresh, and
Yes.
with other companies, just on the kind of employee ownership front.
Yeah. Well, just me personally, and I actually think it's actually smart business for a lot of our small businesses to think about broader ownership, and even from a succession point of view, right? And so, like, what happens, you know, when you're time to, you know, move on. So what we've done, it took me a long time at City Fresh, because one thing, you want to make sure you have a profitable business that actually makes sense for folks to own into, and it's, you know, solid and as best you can get as a business. But we formed an employee stock purchase plan, ESPP, which is a different type of broader ownership. And we launched this about 1.5 years ago. So now we've got 30 employees that own shares. We made it really easy for them to buy in, and we're excited. And then when you add my brother, who's still at the helm, we got 60% of the company. So is actively owned by folks who are working there day to day. Love to share about that experience. I think we're still in the early stage, and I believe Ujima was involved early with us as we were setting that up. There's some conversations and stuff with Aaron and such, but no, we're excited. And I would just say, sorry, it's a long answer. A part of that too was it was a model for other businesses, right? When we think about what makes sense for them and thinking about exit, and just just the morality issue too.
Excellent.
Oh, can I just say something very quickly, Nia? If I could brag.
Yep.
My wife 2 years ago, she works for Grassroots International, and invited me on a trip to Spain. I actually went to Madrigal.
Nice.
I stepped foot in the Holy Land, and it was amazing. I got a private tour. So, anyway, just personally, I'm very enthused.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Glenn. All right, we will now, and I appreciate you taking some questions you weren't quite prepared for, but we will now open it up for 1 or 2 questions from members. Okay, again, I think people have had enough time to make sure they're unmuted. Sierra, you have a question?
If there are no member questions.
Go ahead.
All right, so my question is about whether or not MCCI has done this before. And if y'all usually collaborate with other organizations or stakeholders in the community development / finance investment fields to advance your mission and goals.
So who we're collaborating with? I just make sure.
Do you do this often? Is this a process that y'all have done?
Oh, I'm sorry. In terms of co-investment, I'm sorry. Often enough, actually, yeah. So I mean, a lot of the deals we do are just us. We actually, sometimes we're bringing banks along. Actually, in some of the deals, we've done some co-investments with Boston Impact Initiative. We do a bunch of co-deals with Leaf. So yeah, so we are all about spreading risk too, right? So it's a good thing to do sometimes, and yeah. So and everyone has their different systems, and you learn their styles and so on and so forth. But yeah, no, it is. Now that I think about it, more of a common practice, especially for the bigger deals.
Thank you, Sierra. Appreciate that question. Okay, and so now we'll go to our last Zoom poll, and then just some context for that. So as I said, again, we introduced this initially in 2019. We introduced a general question, and then at the time, the partner that we had proposed was BEI. So you heard Glenn say BEI earlier. There are a whole bunch of acronyms, whole bunch of abbreviations. So at the time, one of the organization was BEI, Business Equity Initiative. And we presented a list of 10 potential partners, and asked members to weigh in on each partner specifically. And so for BEI, We had one member vote no. We had 4 abstentions and the rest were yes. Again, just to give a sense of where people were kind of leaning in 2019, with a different iteration of the organization, it was BEI at the time. But today we'll just throw up the Zoom poll where we're asking, do you approve of Mill City's community investment as a proposed investment partner? And we'll just allow a couple of minutes for that to populate. And I think, Sierra, you got it in terms of activating the Zoom, because I'm not
I
sure.
still can't.
I'm not sure if James is here. So how would I do that? How would I activate the poll? Oh, polls. Okay. Okay. So let's see. I'm gonna go back. Okay, I'm gonna launch the second poll. I'm launching the second poll now. And we'll just give a. All right, we see one person has participated so far. We got 2. Okay, we're still waiting for 4 more people. Now we're waiting for 3 more people. This is what's cool about this poll as opposed to the formal voting we do. It's a little more instant. So we're still waiting for 3 more people to participate. I know I can't participate. I think Sierra can't. Perhaps some people are wondering if they can. Okay. We're waiting for 2 more people to participate. Although 1, 2. Although we may have everyone. Let me just check with Yusuf, Genoa, and Andre. Did either one of you vote in the last poll?
I did not.
You did not. Okay,
I
Genoa.
voted.
Who's I?
Me, Yusuf.
Yusuf, you voted in the last poll? Okay, all right, so.
Yeah, last and this one.
All right, and you, oh, you did vote in this one. Okay. Genoa, did you vote in the last poll?
No, it doesn't give me an option.
It doesn't give you an option. Okay. And then Sierra, you can't vote, right? Okay, Glenn, are you able to vote?
Oh, you know what? I was and I didn't. I abstained. So I just because I could.
Yeah, why don't you vote in this one? I just
Oh,
want to
can
make
someone
sure
send me another one? I'm sorry. I exited out of my screen. I don't know if that's
I
possible.
also didn't know that I could vote. Yes, it gave me
Okay.
an option. I just
Well,
extended.
actually, that's fine then. I just want to, so then I think you, Andre and Glenn are the outstanding people, and that's fine. The 2 of you don't need to vote. So I will go ahead out in the poll. We have 1 strongly approve and 3 approve. So I've just shared the results. So hopefully everyone can see them. And we appreciate your feedback. Sierra, what I think we'll do is we will, when we send out the recording, also send out the poll for people to participate in if they want to. Thank you. We will now do some final announcements and close out this conversation.
Am I good, Ania? Am I let you?
You are good to go, Glenn.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks, guys. Yeah.
Bye, Glenn.
Bye.
So we've come to the end of the town hall. This is also the end of our assembly month. So we just want to issue a very special thank you to all of our partners and you, the viewer / our members, for being a part of every single Ujima Wednesday, every single workshop, all of our events that have spanned the month, BCCO, Mill City Community Investments, Wagner Foundation, and everybody in between. We just want to issue a very special thank you. Some final messages before we all go and have a great afternoon. Some final announcement. So again, on Monday is our credit memo Q&A and DSCR 101 workshop for the pearl and cupcake therapy. I'm going to drop the link to the website, ujimaboston.com/vote, just one more time. So y'all can register. Just 1 second, so y'all can register. Okay, it's in the chat. Please go there, register, come learn with us and hear more from the Pearl and Cupcake Therapy on May 1st. Just after that, we will have voting beginning the next week on May 9th. We are doing a businesses we need investment plan and open call, and I'm actually gonna pass it to Nia to talk a little bit more about this.
Sure. Thank you, Sierra. So I will also be talking more about this at our co-direct on Wednesday, May 3rd. But later in the month of May, I believe, we are going to be doing an open call very specifically for businesses we need. And so what this means is we will be inviting both business owners and individuals who are not business owners to nominate businesses that fulfill one of the businesses we need. We have a list of 14 businesses we need. We will be putting out a call for people to nominate businesses that have not already been named. Alongside that, what we will be doing is doing a needs screen on businesses we love that are not yet part of investment plans. This is in the direction of creating a new investment plan that's focused on businesses we need. And right now we're calling this our businesses we need investment plan. Just quick kind of context, rewind. In our assemblies and on our personalized investment forms, the way we source investments through community members is we ask name businesses you love. We also ask name businesses you think we need that we don't currently have. Our processes so far have focused on businesses we love. So far what we've done is we've taken all the names of the businesses we love. We've put them into different lists, usually kind of organized by neighborhood. We've then presented them to either members as a whole or to delegates for ratification. And then those businesses, once they were ratified, became part of our investment plans. What's new about this is now focusing on that businesses we need category that we have also been asking about since 2016, but we have not had a special focus on. So that's one of the kind of newer things that we'll be doing. And so then we'll have a businesses we need investment plan operating that'll include some businesses that have been named already and just haven't yet been ratified as part of an investment plan, as well as new businesses. The last thing I'd like to say about this is for us, we also see this as a way to provide an opportunity for individuals and businesses who are kind of newly learning about Ujima this year and last year, for example, to be able to name businesses and for us to be able to ratify those businesses as part of an investment plan a little more quickly than what the businesses we love process will allow. So I will provide additional information about this at our co-direct on Wednesday. And you will also be receiving additional information about us creating a new businesses we need investment plan via emails, etc. in the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you, Nia. And so our final announcement, our next town hall is slated for Tuesday, July 11th, 2023. We're going to have this one in the evening from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. So mark your calendars. We'll send you a message. We will remind you, don't worry, but mark your calendars. It's going to be a blast because we will have a lot more to report out on. So that's it. That's it from us. Stay up to date. Visit our website, ujimaboston.com, at Boston Ujima Project on all socials. Thank you all so much.
Thank you all.
Thank
Have
you.
a wonderful afternoon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.